More details coming in connection with the latest round of Moscow Kyiv talks. Russia's chief negotiator accuses Ukraine of blocking humanitarian corridors for civilians and calls it a war crime. My colleague Pradeep Datta is live with us from Ukraine. Pradeep, this is coming in just now on how, both sides are actually accusing the other of the exact same issue, where Russia's chief negotiator, we are told, is now saying that it's Ukraine blocking the humanitarian corridors. And we were discussing it yesterday. The ceasefire violation on paper during talks, it is committed to. But what happens on ground, Pradeep? Why is it that these humanitarian corridors never happened? It's just something that is discussed.
You are absolutely right. In fact, you know what happens many a time, the decisions are taken on top, but those decisions are hardly implemented. It's the implementation part that's really more important. And here, this is third time during the last few days when the ceasefire has been announced, but on ground, that word was never kept. There are three reasons for that. One is that if the decision is taken on top, many a time the decision takes time to reach up to the level of the local formations, and because of which also that human corridor becomes almost impossible. The second thing is that it's not only one party that has to ensure human corridor. It is both parties like Ukraine as well as Russia. At times there can be some shelling and firing from the Russian side. At times Ukrainians are not complying with orders. So that again creates hurdles and stumbling blocks so far as the humanitarian corridor is concerned. And the third thing is that we have seen the allegations, charges, counter allegations against each other. We have seen that how Russians had been blaming Ukrainians of taking civilians as human shields, and why they are doing so. Now, one has to understand, when they say that they are using civilians as human shield, they are trying to say that by keeping civilians in particular area, they are trying to prevent bombing or any kind of a movement of the Russian troops. That's why the Russians are saying this thing. But so far as the Ukrainians are concerned, they are saying that under the garb of ceasefire, Russians are simply advancing, and they want to advance because Russians want, once the civilians will be moving, that way it will become a little bit easier. But in case the civilians are there and there is a bombardment or any kind of an attack and civilians get killed, and that way everybody, the whole world will try to blame Russia for the brutality. So that's why the Russians say that how the civilians are being used as human shield by Ukrainians. So these charges, counter charges are continuing. But amid all this, who is suffering? The suffering is of the civilians. The civilians continue to suffer. Like right now, I am also on one of the bomb shelters where you will find that many of the civilians are still putting up in different places. So they are the one who are suffering. They are facing lot many problems. About 1.5 million civilians had already lost their homes. They are moving from one place to another place. They are totally displaced. We had been interacting with many of them. They don't know where to go, and many of them have already lost their lives. And it's not only about the physical scar you look at. It's also about the psychological trauma, because for the last 8 to 10 days, 12 days, they had been sitting inside the bunkers in basement area, trying to prevent themselves from getting hit by those killer shells being fired by the Russian troops, or exchange of fire from either side. So that's a big problem. But amid all this,
ask you, Pradeep, about the Sumai situation, because that is of immediate concern to us, whereas students are still stuck, and it was promised that there will be a safe passage given to them. However, that entire process is now on hold. Is there any update? We just received information that Harjot has reached back home. He's taken 5 bullets. We do not want any such thing to happen again. Neither do we want another Naveen to happen again. What is the reason that the Sumai evacuation had to be halted?
See, initially it appeared that a ceasefire was announced, that maybe it will become a little bit easier for the embassy people to reach that place, and they will be able to take students. And all of a sudden, initially, when we interacted with the students there, one girl, Shweta, she appeared very calm, composed. She was relaxed when she was packing her goods, and because they got called from the embassy people that 4 to 5 buses are on way, and very soon they will be made to board buses and they will be taken to safer place. There were 2 routes. One was like Russian route, means taking them to Belgrade, but that was not possible. So they had decided they will be taking them well southwards and then west westward, that was a longer route, but they were preferring that route. But all of a sudden, after some time, they got another call: stay at wherever you are. You will not be able to board bus. A reason being that the firing and shelling from the other side is still continuing, and the route is not safe. In such a situation, it really becomes very difficult for the embassy officials also to shift people and students. And that's really a matter of concern for India, because Prime Minister Narendra Modi had a telephonic conversation with both President Zelensky. Also, he had a telephonic conversation with Vladimir Putin. He spoke for more than half an hour, about 40 minutes, where he was trying to tell both Vladimir Putin and Zelensky to talk to each other, because that way the mistrust between the two countries will be over. Good that the negotiators are talking to each other, but once the head of the two states will be talking, that element of suspicion and mistrust can be taken care of. And the second thing was, Prime Minister was asking for, thanking them that at least they are helping them in evacuation process, and he wanted that humanitarian corridor to be there so that safe passage can be provided to the students whosoever are stuck up, especially in the Sumy area. That's a matter of concern, because it's the hinterland, and from where they want to take them out. So that is what actually. But all of a sudden, it seems that neither the Russians nor the Ukrainians, they're able to keep their word, translate their words into action. Though they promised lot many things, Russians said ceasefire, but ceasefire on the ground doesn't exist. And in such a situation, it really becomes very difficult for authorities to shift these people to safer areas. So best option right now for the students is to stay wherever they are. That is the advisory issued to them by embassy people.
Pradeep, for joining us from Ukraine, for giving us all the latest.